conjure up a witch in your mind, what do you see?
Witches are horrible, ugly things, and they melt when you throw water on them. Look!
Maybe a green-skinned woman with a hooked nose, wild black hair, and a shrill cackle? She lives alone in the woods, waiting to eat children, or steal their youth for beauty. But that kind of witch, that stereotype, is just one chapter in a much bigger story.
Lexi, you're a witch. Somehow, I don't think you have green skin. Unless you've been doing full body foundation without telling me.
Witches have been around for centuries, evolving from symbols of evil into something far more complicated, powerful, and, honestly, surprisingly relatable. Today, I want to take you on a little field trip through history and pop culture to see how witches went from terrifying monsters to aspirational icons.
Uh-oh, field trip? She's talking about time travel again.
The Salem Witch.
Oh no, you're taking us to...
We can't talk about witches without stopping by the Salem Witch Trials of 1692 in Salem, Massachusetts.
Are you crazy? We're a witch and a dragon. Do you know what they do to us if they catch us here? I don't even want to think about what they do to me.
Those of you who read The Crucible in school know all about this. It was a tool used to control or outcast people. Anyone could be accused of witchcraft for being too independent, too outspoken, or simply not fitting the mold. It was never about magic. It was about control. Widows, midwives, and women who didn't play by the rules became easy targets. A weapon against female autonomy. Because God forbid women not be subservient to a man. Are you over a certain age, unmarried, and happy? Must be a witch. It didn't take much to be accused, so it was just best to behave and avoid it.
Yes, avoiding is good. Like not time traveling into it. Or about just setting ducks out here.
At this time, witches weren't what you needed to fear. Being accused of being one was the real danger. The witch wasn't the monster, the mob was.
The persecution, the hysteria of 300 years ago arose again today. And all it took was an idea planted in your hand. The idea someone different was among you.
But over time, this hysteria about witches planted a lasting image on the world, that witches were dangerous outsiders.
And that's what hysteria can do to you.
The fairy tale witch.
Oh, okay, good. That sounds less bad. Fairy tales are for kids.
Actually, you'd be surprised. Fairy tales used to be for all ages, and a lot of them weren't so kid-friendly.
Oh.
This real-world panic bled into the stories we told. Witches became boogeymen and cautionary figures, lurking in forests, waiting to pounce on children. That's where fairy tales like Hansel and Gretel, Snow White, and Baba Yaga come in. These were almost always old hags living alone in forests, waiting to trap children, steal their youth, to stay young and beautiful forever.
Okay, so if we don't eat any mysterious candy houses or strange apples, I think we'll be okay.
These were abstract figures to scare children into not eating too many sweets, and to learn there are bad people out there who might hurt them if they didn't do what they were told. Or the ever-prevalent bad people are ugly loners concept. These scare tactics were no different from the big bad wolf. Simple villains meant to teach a lesson.
See, I told you what would happen when that big wolf came around. Only bricks and stones are wolf-proof. Now at last you're safe and sound.
The fairy tale witch was always a little bit of a threat, but never truly terrifying. The scary witch.
Oh, come on. I was fine with the cautionary tale ones. We don't need to find the more dangerous ones, the truly terrifying ones. Kind of isn't that important.
If you want a scary witch, then the scariest witches of all, in the early days at least, are the three witches of Macbeth, or the Scottish play if you're superstitious.
Hey, Jimmy, I just found out that the play Macbeth has a curse and you're not supposed to say Macbeth, because if you say Macbeth, bad things happen because you said Macbeth, and we've been saying Macbeth a lot. And congratulations on getting the part of Macbeth. I said Macbeth!
Yes, superstitious. Very superstitious. Don't summon anything.
But it's too late. I've already said it. And maybe even more famously, the Wicked Witch of the West from Wizard of Oz.
Oh. I mean, is she even that scary?
Actually, yeah, a lot of people who saw that movie back then, back when it was new, or as children, found Elphaba terrifying. She is probably one of the most iconic depictions of a witch ever put to screen.
Well, she talked like this. It's very nice to see you.
That story's interesting, because it's probably one of the first ones to bring up the possibility that there are good witches as well as bad ones.
I sure hope so. I'm at the mercy of one right now.
Up until then, witch just meant evil, plain and simple. Glinda the Good Witch, all pink and sparkly, wand with a star on it, might seem more like a fairy godmother type, but she is a witch. That's something you'll see a lot in older stories, that women with magical abilities were often either bad and called a witch, or good and called a fairy or a sorcerer if you're feeling fancy about it.
Well, you're no fairy, that's for sure.
So, this at the time was very new. But it did create a false dichotomy, that only the bad witches are ugly.
But I've never heard of a beautiful witch before. Only bad witches are ugly.
Not unlike the fairy tales that came before it, it made the connection that good people are pretty and bad people are or become ugly, like in Snow White. A lesson I would love to just tear to shreds in another video because, man, is that not the worst thing they could have taught us. It's in countless different stories framed as the lesson. So now we have the idea that not all witches are bad, just the ugly ones. Problematic, perhaps. What about those good witches? They went from rare new concept to the next big thing, the Good Witch.
Works for me. Only some good witches.
That brings us to the swinging 60s, where we get a popular show that took that idea and ran with it, Bewitched. The sitcom about a young, newly married witch living among us who just wants to be normal. I came onto this one through the 2000s Bewitched movie, but there's no replacing the original. It was one of the first times audiences were asked to root for a witch, not fear one.
Well, that's just crazy. Who'd ever watch that?
Not only that, she wasn't just there to support another character. She was the driving force. She was funny, too.
Do you fly?
Oh, yes.
Completely unheard of. She was the perfect suburban housewife, but also secretly much more powerful than her husband. This was an incredibly feminist concept, though nowadays seems pretty tame on the rewatch. She spent most of the series suppressing her power.
I won't do it.
Which, in hindsight, feels like a metaphor for how women were taught to hide their strength.
Maybe I will.
I think maybe you're reading too much into this. It was a sitcom.
Exactly! It gave audiences a campy, fun way to imagine a woman with power. Something that had seemed scary before. With this, it didn't feel scary at all. Bewitched had even inspired a craze all the way in Japan that became what we know as the magical girl. We did a whole video on that, actually. You should check that out after this one.
Yeah, I was gonna say, didn't we talk about this show before on this channel?
The concept became so popular that in the 70s we got Bedknobs and Broomsticks, a family romp featuring a witch as the main character who suddenly had to look after 3 children. This, after all the fairy tales about witches stealing children, is a fascinating turn. It took the witch and made her a maternal figure, even though in the movie she started out wanting nothing to do with these children.
You're not suggesting that I should take these children into my house.
She had very important work to do for the war effort, and trying to figure out how to fly that silly broom with the lousy instructions. The movie was lighthearted and fun, mixing animation with live action, a lot like Mary Poppins, who you could say was also pretty much witch-coded herself, with a very similar role in protecting and raising the children of her story.
That is actually kind of true. I never thought of that. Then again, you've had a bottomless bag before, so I guess I shouldn't be surprised.
Suddenly, the witch didn't feel scary anymore.
I'm a witch.
Novel and family-friendly was what we were getting more often now. Sure, we still had a spooky witch or two over the years, but now we had this too, and people loved it. The cool witch.
Okay, I wouldn't go that far.
This made way for the 90s and 2000s witch boom, the one that absolutely got me hooked. This was the time for a less maternal witch and more relatable teen and young adult witch.
We're witches! Yes, but we're people too.
Suddenly, witches were everywhere. We had Sabrina the Teenage Witch, who was just like you and me, going to high school, having crushes, making friends, and dealing with bullies. And she just so happened to have magical powers that, more often than not, just made everything more complicated. She was relatable. She was also sometimes aspirational. Because who hasn't wanted to curse the meanest kid in school to turn to a goat?
Can't say that's ever crossed my mind. Why? Turn anyone to goats lately, Lexi? Are you telling on yourself?
Or expand the butt of our mean math teacher and then sentence him to an eternity of teacher's salary.
Okay, that one I get.
This witch was friend, never foe. Suddenly, the witch was cool. In practical magic and charmed, we had young women looking for love and sisterhood in these beautiful autumn cozy homes and towns with aspirational lives. Oh yes, just so happen to be witches too. Or they were empowered teenage girls figuring out their identity. Who they want to be in this crazy world was now at their fingertips, just like how Sabrina had to balance her magical life with her mortal one.
You make them sound like superheroes with secret identities, like Spider-Man or something.
I mean, actually, yeah, they kind of were sometimes. The charmed witches were protectors, almost like superheroes. And the Sisters of Practical Magic may have raised the dead that one time, but they thought it was for love. And they undid that the first chance they got, so it's okay. Kind of like Willow in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Saving the day just as often as she was accidentally causing the problem. But we love her.
Sander, what I'm doing, it's a good thing. And if it doesn't work, Giles never even needs to know about it.
The Cozy Witch. Jumping back over to Japan, after the rise of the magical girl, they had a few characters who were explicitly witches too.
Oh yeah, let's just casually jump over to Japan. These field trips through time and space always give me whiplash.
Several witches at this time were even cozy. They told gentle, warm slice of life and coming-of-age stories like Kiki's Livery Service and The Witches and Wizards of Howl's Moving Castle, two of my favorite Miyazaki films. Kiki was a witch in a world where witches were entirely accepted in society as useful and interesting, and her journey was about finding herself and having a coming-of-age story that many young adults first trying to make it on their own can relate to.
Yeah, Kiki was just 13 in that story, but I think people in their 20s and 30s relate the most.
So, you're on your own at 13. That's pretty exciting.
It's that sweet spot between cozy and a little painful, because we understand the struggle. And Howl, the first boy on this list actually, went on a maturing story of his own, as he became less fearful and vain, and was willing to risk it all for the person he fell in love with. It was about reclaiming his own heart.
Literally.
A heart's a heavy burden.
It's also the second witch story in this list that features a war effort. The first being Bedknobs and Broomsticks. Both times, the witch was a protector against oppression.
That is an alarming pattern.
Yeah, that's not a lot, but it's weird it's happened twice, right? The messy outsider witch.
See, now this one makes sense to me.
Now, not all witches from this time were completely innocent. Let's be clear about that. We also had things like the craft, which reminded us that witchcraft and sisterhood are great, but there's still danger to it. If you're not careful, you can become someone you don't recognize with that kind of power, so use it wisely. For Bonnie and Rochelle, things went too far, and they lost their magic. For Sarah, she learned self-empowerment, but not at the cost of others. For Nancy, well, it drove her mad.
And nobody wants a mad witch. One or the other, maybe, but definitely not both.
This movie has enough darkness around its edges to remind us that it's not all fun and games. To be careful. It doesn't make witches good or evil, it makes them about choices. It adds nuance, a little more gray area. Sure, they came out of it with the idea that there are good ones and bad ones at the end, but it was all based on choices, not ugliness, not more or less power, but what they chose to do with it. I used to not like the end of this movie when I first saw it, because I wanted everyone to have a happy ending. Now though, I think it's one of the most powerful ways they could have done it. It even managed to be a spooky, iconic classic while doing it.
You got that right. I love a good horror movie, but this one has the heebies and the jeebies. I've never seen a creepier scene with bugs and snakes in my life.
You girls watch out for those weirdos.
We are the weirdos, mister.
The craft also features one of the very few black girls as a witch for the first time, Rochelle. And was the actress treated well for it? No, absolutely not, and that's well documented. But she made history nonetheless. A cracked open space representation that matters. Witches at this time were already making waves as outsiders, and about feminism, but now it made the literal connection that it fit perfect with minorities. Something that didn't end with the craft, and we'll see it more and more going forward. The modern witch.
Yay, we're back in the present, good old 2020s. Okay, in second thought, drop me off back in the 90s. This decade is no fun.
The craft may have been, in many ways, what sparked the direction witches have gone in modern times. Maybe not directly, but I think it helped pave the way. Because now I'd say we're in the era of the more realistic witch, who lives in more of a gray area as the norm. Not the fringe cult classic we get now and then. We have witches now like Wanda Maximoff, who can do great good and great harm, like she did in WandaVision, where she trapped an entire town in her own grief.
Back to talking about superhero stuff, I see.
Wanda was always an outsider, who people feared. But it was an opportunity to see her as a person, to see her emotions up close and empathize with her. We had a similar look at the former villain turned sympathetic character in the popular adaptations of Wicked. Personally, one of my favorite depictions of the modern witch is the Owl House. Luce, a bit of an outsider at school, wants nothing more than to run away from the pains of a normal world and become a witch. She wants to be herself and find community. Not change herself to fit in, but express herself, to find a weird little family. And that's exactly what the show does. And it does it countless times with other characters too.
Personally, I'm more a fan of King.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm sure you two would have a lot in common. The Owl House was about outsiders looking for community without having to change who they are or conform, including King. The show makes it clear. It's not about fitting in, it's about finding your people. Because us weirdos have to stick together. There's power and community found in this magic. Community for the outsiders. The people who were once seen as scary, the minorities, the people who once had to hide, can now come out filled with pride in their authentic selves. This, to me, is what it's all about.
One would think it's about the magic. You do you, I guess.
Real-world impact. These days, a witch is aspirational. Witch Talk is a thriving community online, talking about moon phases, herbs for cleansing, spells for self-care. Whether or not you believe in the magic itself, it shows just how far the ideas come. Now witches are influencers, community builders, lifestyle gurus. A far cry from how it all started, when being accused of witchcraft was a way to silence, disempower, and harm. Now, it's something you can be famous for.
And yet, you have yet to make this channel famous for us, Lexi. Do us some more witchy things. The fans demand it.
Witches went from being burned at the stake to going viral on TikTok. How is that for a 400-year rebrand? Stand tall, witches, because weird is the new cool.
Okay, again, I wouldn't go that far. But that's what people want. And gaze in wonder of Lexi Conjures, the witch who wears that and looks completely normal. Stare in awe of the completely normal girl who drags her dragon friend into time travel adventures without permission. You know, people who think witches are cool clearly don't have that experience.
Once upon a time, standing out got you accused. Today, it's how you find your people. No matter your race, your gender, your religion, who you love, or how you look. In our strange glory, witches remind us that being different is a way to join together and find community with each other. A sisterhood and brotherhood and everything between hood. Of the strange, the misunderstood, the powerful. Not feared, but celebrated. Not hunted, but lifted up. So grab your broom, your tarot deck, or just your weird little self, and welcome to the coven.
Yeah, but you gotta subscribe first. See? It's magic. Every time I say subscribe, the button glows. Maybe it's good luck.
Don't lie to our audience for clicks, Eli. We want them to know I'm a good witch, don't we? But if you want more videos like this, you should subscribe and see what magical witchy things we'll do next. We love talking about art, stories, and pop culture around here, so we can learn and explore ideas together.
So, why are you doing a video on how cool dragons are?
Bye, guys!